E-commerce can be fun, but parts of it aren't. I hate the minute details. I hate the little administrative tasks that drive me insane.
Oh, work. That's what we do,
One of those things is my bookkeeping, which is a terrible idea because it's so important.
Bookkeeping, is it American bookkeeping?
And if you don't do it right or if you get behind, it ends up just being a monumental problem that you have to fix anyways. So one of my good buddies in the space, Natan Hirsch, he's been around for a fairly long time actually in kind of the e-com Amazon space, has a company called Ecom Balance. And I asked him, I said, Nathan, I want you to come on. I want you to talk about a simple to understand and a simple to follow monthly process. Like help us figure out what's important, what's not. Walk us through the monthly process that we should be paying attention to and following to make sure that our bookkeeping stays up to date correctly.
You don't cut corners. You do it the right way.
So let me introduce to you, Nathan. Nathan, so glad you're here. I appreciate you being on. I hope you're doing all right today. Hope the weather's great. And I hope that you drop some killer bombs of knowledge for us. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. My name's Natan Hirsch, and I'm one of the co-founders of Ecom Balance. And today I want to talk about your monthly bookkeeping process. And here's why it's important. As an entrepreneur, as an e-commerce seller, you do not need to know the ins and outs of QuickBooks Online or of bookkeeping in general. What you do need to have is a great monthly bookkeeping process in place. And with my first business, I didn't have that. And I would just wait till the end of the year and dump it on my accountant and have them do everything at once. Or I would try to do it myself and just have to pay to get it redone later by someone else. And with my second business, I set up a good monthly bookkeeping process from the beginning. This allowed me to make great monthly decisions every single month based on what the numbers were telling me, and it helped me pass due diligence and eventually sell the company. So today, I'm going to go through what your monthly bookkeeping process should look like, what you should focus on, what you shouldn't focus on. Now let's jump into it. To start, I want to get you in the right mentality. An entrepreneur should never be doing their own bookkeeping for two reasons. First of all, it's not a good use of your time. You should focus on sales, expansion, marketing, growing your business. There are a lot of big decisions and strategies that you should be focused on as an entrepreneur. You should not spend time every month reconciling QuickBooks. Second, most entrepreneurs are not good at bookkeeping. 9 out of 10 times that someone sends me books that they did themselves, it just has to get redone by someone who really knows what they're doing and understands e-commerce. So even if you are a bookkeeper yourself or you're a former CPA, I would still argue it's not a good use of your time. Very few serious entrepreneurs spend any time doing the actual bookkeeping work. But that doesn't mean financials are not important. That doesn't mean you can just ignore the financials or not understand the financials of your business. The way that your bookkeeping setup should work is the month should end, and within 10 to 15 days of the month being over, you should get an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow statement. And you should have a meeting on your calendar every single month. We have ours on the 15th. My business partner, Connor, and I, we have run this meeting for over 7 years now, every single month, and we do not miss this meeting for any reason. And during this meeting, we go through the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow. We compare this month to last month, this month to the same month last year, and we look for trends. Is one segment of our business doing better than the other or growing at a faster pace? Are we spending time on the wrong thing? I can't tell you how many sellers will be selling on different marketplaces. Let's say Amazon Japan, Amazon Europe, Amazon US, but some of them are not making that much money and they're wasting a lot of time and effort when they should be focused on where their business is doing well. Are my payroll costs going up faster than sales? Do I have room to hire another person? These are decisions that you can make. And if you go to ecombalance.com, you can actually grab our monthly finance agenda and go through the exact same agenda that we've been going through for the past 7 years. So that's what your bookkeeping setup should look like every single month. And it should be on autopilot. You shouldn't work with a bookkeeper that sometimes gets you your books on the 10th and other times it's the 20th and other times they have to skip a month and catch up later. It should be on autopilot. The month ends within 10 to 15 days, you get those reports. You have a meeting on your calendar. In that meeting is your husband, your wife, your business partner, your team leaders, and you go through each line of all three: income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. As an entrepreneur, you do not need to go buy a course on how to use QuickBooks or learn how to reconcile a bank account. What you do need to do, not all at once, but eventually, is learn how to read an income statement, a balance sheet, and a cash flow. This is a great business skill. It helps you in your own business. It helps you if you're investing in other people's businesses. And it helps you if you ever want to get into the stock market, you want to be able to read companies' balance sheet, income statement, and cash flow. Now, you will get better at this over time. If you're looking at it every single month and going through it with your business partner, that's one way to get better at it. You can always hire a mentor or hire someone who has gone through it before. You can have your bookkeeper walk you through it, at least the first time. You can Google certain line items in your chart of accounts and slowly over time understand the difference between each one. And each one is important for a different reason. But the point is, you should have a meeting on your calendar every single month where you go through these things with the higher people in your organization. So from there, let's talk about the 3 different service providers or 3 different people that you should have inside your business from the financial side. And that's a CPA or a tax person. If you're outside the US, it's called something different. Your bookkeeper, and potentially a CFO. And each person serves a purpose in your business. And the CFO you can actually add later. That usually comes into play when you're doing over a few $1 million a year. So your CPA or your tax person, their goal is to save you money on taxes, tax strategy, tax planning, filing your taxes, reviewing the books and being on the same page with the bookkeeper, making any suggestions there, figuring out how you should organize your business. Should you be an S Corp or a C Corp? All that stuff is what the CPA is used for. And if anyone wants a referral of a great CPA, I don't get referral money, but I've used him for 10 years. Feel free to reach out to me, Natan Hirsch, on any channel, and I'll connect you with him. And so your CPA is good at filing taxes. They are not necessarily the best at day-to-day bookkeeping for a few reasons. First of all, they are more expensive than a normal bookkeeper. CPAs cost more. Second of all, they are very focused on the tax side. Their goal is to put your numbers together in a way to file your taxes, which is great and is accurate and is not wrong by any means, but that doesn't get you to a point where you can make decisions on the numbers. Their job isn't to display the numbers to you every month in a way that you can understand and make decisions on. So their focus is more on that tax side. And third of all, a lot of times they have busy seasons, they have tax seasons, they have certain deadlines throughout the year. It's very hard for them to get a monthly rhythm down where the month ends and within 10 to 15 days, every single month on time, they get your books done. They might try to do it quarterly. They might have some months they're on time and other months they have to wait because they're busy with tax side. You want them to focus on what they're good at, and that's the tax side. And I've always had a CPA for all my businesses who just does the taxes, not the bookkeeping. Second is the bookkeeping side. So the bookkeeping service, like we talked about, month ends, they get it to you on time. They understand e-commerce, which is incredibly important. If you're an e-commerce seller, don't go use your bookkeeper that lives right next to you because they work with corporate companies or non-e-commerce businesses. You want a bookkeeper that understands e-commerce and they can get you the books on time in a way that you can actually understand what's going on and is able to explain them to you and answer your questions. And then third is that CFO. The CFO comes into play usually when you're over that $2 to $3 million mark. You can hire a part-time CFO, you can hire a full-time CFO internally, but they're there for strategy and forecasting and projecting financials and making business decisions based on financials. So in the perfect world, you have all 3 of these players, or at least the CPA and the bookkeeper, and they're working in tandems. 2 minds or 3 minds is always better than 1. And there's a lot of benefit to having different people do what they're focused on. That's how I've always set up my businesses. And there's a lot of value there when you can have the bookkeeper and the CPA working together to help you on the financial side. Now that we've talked about the overall mentality and what your monthly setup should be, and what the different types of people in finances are, let's talk about your tech stack. And this is incredibly important. There's a lot of different accounting softwares and tools out there, and I want to give you the tech stack that you should be using. So to start, there are 2 main accounting softwares, and that's QuickBooks Online and Xero. Those are the main 2. I've used them for all my businesses. Everyone kind of has their own pros and cons of which one they like more, but those are the main 2. They cost between $30 and $70 a month, depending on the plan that you need. And those are the only 2 that you should consider. There are other softwares out there. There's Wave, which is free. There's, I think, GoDaddy Bookkeeping, although they closed that down. There's a bunch of other ones. don't consider them. Almost all the time when people try to cut corners and save money on their accounting software, they just end up moving everything to QuickBooks or moving everything to Xero later. And that type of work costs way more than just doing it on the correct software to begin with. So that's the bare minimum. Second is you need something to connect the marketplaces to QuickBooks or Xero. For whatever reason, marketplaces are very bad at connecting to QuickBooks and displaying accurate data that actually reconciles. So you need a tool in the middle. And we spent the first 90 days when we started Ecom Balance really testing and figuring out what tools give the most accurate data that let us reconcile, what tools have the fewest bugs, and what tools allow for the most marketplaces. And we came to terms with A2X being the best tool out there. This is our opinion. There are other tools that you can use, but there are other tools out there like Link My Books and Connect My Books that you can consider using. But the point is you need a tool to connect from the marketplaces to QuickBooks or Xero. And that's your tech stack, a connecting piece and QuickBooks or Xero. And that's what you should use for any accounting service that you use. Now, it's okay. Like when we use A2X with our clients, we have a relationship with them. We include it in our monthly fee. That's okay. But you should always have ownership of your own QuickBooks or Xero accounts. Don't give your accountant or your bookkeeper owner of those books. I can't tell you what horror stories have come up when people lose access to their own books. Always remain an owner of those books so that you can switch services and you have control of everything and that you're not going to lose that data. So just a quick tip there. Now let's dive into a few things to keep in mind for e-commerce businesses. And this is a big hint when you're picking out bookkeepers to know that they actually understand e-commerce. First of all, you want to make sure that the net that goes into your bank account is not what goes on the top line of your income statement. That is incorrect. The top line should be your Amazon sales, and then there's different fees, returns, shipping. That should be what goes into the top line of your income statement. And that's what you use A2X or Connect My Books to link and pull that data. So if someone's using the net deposit in your bank account as the top line, that is a big red flag that they do not understand e-commerce. Second is accrual versus cash basis. So there's two different types of accounting, and I won't go too far into this because I want to keep this video focused on the big picture and not the ins and outs of accounting. But essentially, cash basis is when you charge your card, when your money hits your bank account, that's when it appears in your books. Accrual is when you actually enter into the agreement. So if you agree to pay a vendor, but you're not paying them for 90 days, accrual would go into your books when you agree to it, not necessarily when the money leaves your bank account. Accrual bookkeeping is very important for e-commerce businesses. Joe Valley, who's a broker with Quiet Light and owns a company, Exitpreneur, talks about this all the time. If you want to get a better multiple in your business, you have to be doing accrual bookkeeping, and you should only work with bookkeepers that do accrual. And there's also an important factor on the month-to-month bookkeeping. So think about it this way. If you bought $50,000 worth of inventory in January and it appeared on your books in January might not look so good. It might show a loss. It might show break even, whatever. But February, March, and April might show big profits because all that 50K was into January. But if instead of putting that 50K in January, you put it in the month that you actually sold that product that you bought, that's going to give you a much better picture of how profitable you are and how much money you're making every single month. So that's why it's important to have a bookkeeper that does accrual-based bookkeeping so that you can actually see what you're doing every single month and you can get a higher multiple when you go to sell your business. So that is incredibly important to keep in mind, that top line, and then also accrual versus cash basis. Another overall tip is your setup. Now, a lot of people believe in profit first. I personally do not. I think profit first is great for people that are bad at holding on to money for paying taxes or bad at paying them themselves. But for me, I've never run a business like that. And having 6 different bank accounts that you're constantly switching money around in just seems like a lot of extra effort for what it's worth. But my point is, the less bank accounts, the less credit cards that you have, the easier it is for your bookkeeper, the less it'll cost you, and the less amount of time you're going to have to spend on bookkeeping. So try to set up the simplest setup possible. Now, if you need 3 credit cards to run your business and there's no way around it, by all means have 3 credit cards. But you should also factor in what banks you're using. There are banks like Capital One that don't give view-only access to their bookkeepers. That means that every time that a month ends, you have to download the statement and send that over to your bookkeeper. That is not a good use of your time. Use banks like Mercury or Bank of America that easily give view-only access to your bookkeepers. You don't have to go through hoops to get that access. And from a bookkeeping side, when we go through this with our clients, we want to get as much view-only access as possible so we don't have to bother you every single month. And the way we do that is by using bank accounts and credit cards that allow that view-only access. You should also never use a personal account for business. Now, there's two different parts of this. One is intermingling personal and business, where you're charging groceries to your business account. Now, that is against most tax laws. That can get you in a lot of trouble. That can break the corporate veil, which means if your business gets sued, they're going to consider you your business because you're charging personal expenses there. So you should never do that. And we won't work with clients that do that. You can always fix it going backwards and stop doing it going forward. But what I'm really talking about is you'll have people who will have a personal checking account for personal and a personal checking account just for business. And even though those are separated, personal accounts don't give that view-only access that the bookkeepers need. So you end up having to download statements and send that over to your bookkeeper every single month. My point is, use a business checking account, a business credit card, and make sure you're using a bank that allows view-only access for your bookkeepers to make it easy for them and easy for you. Now, there are some last added benefits to having clean books. To me, the most important thing is being able to make good monthly decisions every single month. That's the key. That's over everything else. But it also makes tax season less stressful because your book's already done and you just pass it over to your CPA. It also helps you get investments or funding, and it also potentially helps you sell your business. No one's going to buy a business with messy or incorrect books. So these are things to keep in mind on why bookkeeping is important. And hopefully you could tell through this video that I don't want to dive into the technical parts of the bookkeeping because you don't need to know that as an entrepreneur. Don't go out and buy a QuickBooks course or try to do it yourself. You should always hire a bookkeeping service that knows e-commerce, that can do it for you, but you have the responsibility to have a meeting on your calendar around the 15th of every month and go through the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. Make sure you're comparing it to the previous month, the same month last year, and make decisions on your business based on real numbers, not on gut, not on your sales totals. Make it based on the income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow. Okay, that's it. Hope it's helpful. Feel free to reach out to me, Natan Hirsch, on any social media channel, or check out ecombalance.com if you're looking for a monthly bookkeeping service. Thank you.
One of the most boring topics, but one of the most important topics. Make sure that you are doing things the right way the first time, so you only cry once, meaning it may suck to do it now. You might pout a little bit doing it, but if you don't do it now, you're going to be crying big time trying to catch back up later. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you have any questions for Natan, post them down below in the comment section, and we'll get those questions over to Natan and get the answers posted for everybody else to see. We appreciate you. Thanks for being part of the Legion, and we'll see you guys on the next Oracles video.